wood floors. Our home was old and shabby, but it was ours. I was very thankful for it. I stopped at the end of the landing and pressed my forehead against the cool glass of the window. Our fields were far from shabby. They brimmed with shrubs and trees, annuals and perennials, ground covers and decorative grasses. Nearly every shade of green leaves imaginable, with hints of gold from the late morning sun, shimmered in the breeze. Splashes of color, including purple irises, pink peonies, and yellow roses, complemented the green. We lived a few miles from the village of Paradise, but our land was truly paradise to me. There was nowhere on earth I'd rather be. I hurried down the stairs and into the living room, where Mom and Ivan sat side by side at the desk, with a pile of bills. Ivan hid Mom from my view as I hurried through. Dot had been thin and short, but Ivan was big and tall. My half-siblings took after their mother, not the father we shared. Even though Ivan had never married, he wore a beard, and had for as long as I could remember. He'd been in his mid-20s by the time I was born, and seemed much more like an uncle than a brother to me. He had his own accounting business. The fact that Mom had asked him to take a look at our finances meant things were worse than I'd feared. She'd always been involved in the day-to-day operation of the farm, but Dot had always seen to the books. Dot hadn't shared our financial situation with me either, but I didn't remember him spending hours at his desk, looking worried, until a few years ago after the economy had soured. 7 years ago, we'd had a thriving business, providing trees, shrubs, and plants to landscapers throughout the area, including those affiliated with commercial builders. As the business grew, so did our overhead, and Dot took out a mortgage to pay for the new greenhouse, office, and irrigation system. It had been a wise business decision, at the time. But then the financial downturn meant less development, which meant less landscaping, which meant fewer sales, which meant we had to scrape to meet each payment. It had been my idea to add crops of blooms and Rauderstock, but the flowers and herbs didn't bring in the income that the nursery stock did. I needed to figure out more ways besides the farmer's market to ease Mom's worries. I'd reached the hallway when she called out my name. "Yeah?" "Come here," she said. "Just a minute." I continued to the sewing room and put the box, not wanting Mom to see it, on the floor and returned to the living room. She sat with her reading glasses on top of a closed manila file, her small hands folded in her lap. A few stray hairs had escaped her gray bun and trailed down her neck alongside the ties of her cup. "I forgot to tell Mervin to water the dogwood trees," she said. "I'll tell him," I answered. Ivan pushed his chair away from the desk. "Anna," he said, addressing my mother by her first name, the way he always had. "I don't see how you can keep the Mosier boy on, not with the way your finances are." I didn't see how we could afford not to, but I didn't say it out loud. It seemed Mom didn't hear, or didn't register what Ivan had said. She continued talking to me. "And tell Mervin to repot the geraniums. It's getting late in the season for those. But it would be good to sell as many as we can." I nodded my head. "Yeah." We'd talked about it the day before. I planned to try to sell some tomorrow at the market. It had been a cool spring. I imagined not everyone had all their potted plants out yet. "Anything else?" I asked. She shook her head and smiled slightly. More wrinkles lined her face than had a few months before. Ivan cleared his throat as if he was readying himself to say something, but Mom put her hand on his and my half-brother remained silent. "I'll go give Mervin the instructions," I said. "Danke." Mom picked up her glasses and opened the file. She'd clearly communicated.